The use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, June 25th, 2019, getting into the week here, getting toward the end of the month here, coming up on the 4th of July. And one of the things I've discovered about Indiana is they allow fireworks year-round, you know, and when we first moved here to Hawaii, you could do fireworks on New Year's and 4th of July and Chinese New Year's, and then, you know, because we're a very liberal state, over the years the fireworks got cut back, and today everything that you get is basically a variation on the party popper, little thing, you pull the string and it goes and a little bit of paper comes out. So that is one of the things I'm looking forward to when we get to Indiana, along with the much more forgiving firearms laws. So you know, overall looking better and better and better and better. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. Now, I'm going to start out here with a little bit of an apology. We had thunderstorms through here last night. I didn't get any sleep, so I'm a little bit fuzzy this morning, and we've got more thunderstorms on the way in right now, but hopefully we'll be able to keep our electricity and internet connection running for the duration of the show. So if you hear a loud bang and all of a sudden we go silent, you'll know what happened. And it has happened before. We actually lost our power twice this morning. All right, turning over to the international scene here. Iran basically came out with an announcement this morning that, owing to the latest round of sanctions signed by Donald Trump, that the path to diplomacy is closed forever. They're saying there's no point in talking. It's very obvious the United States is being the aggressor economically here. And again, Trump is weaponizing rather the sanctions. And Iran does not like it very much. Now, Trump himself has responded to that comment, saying that Iran's statement was ignorant and insulting, and warns that any further attacks will mean obliteration. Well, Iran hasn't actually attacked us. And that's something we need to keep in mind here. The reality is, excuse me, I have a passenger. The reality is that Iran shot down a drone, which now is acknowledged to have been in their airspace at the time. But the rhetoric is still out there. Oh, Iran's the bad guy. Iran's the aggressor. And we've heard this all before. We heard it with Iraq. We heard it with Afghanistan. We heard it with Syria and Libya and all these other countries the United States has attacked. Oh, they're evil. They're mean. They intend bad things for us. So apparently yesterday on an interview in Hill TV, Trump reasserted that he can attack Iran without congressional approval, that he doesn't even need to inform Congress about the attack. He says he wants to keep them abreast, but he says he doesn't have to do it legally. Well, he's completely Wrong there. The Constitution empowers only Congress to declare war, and the War Powers Act also mandates that Congress offer an authorization for the use of military force. Now, no such authorization exists for Iran, something we have to keep pounding on out there. Now, Trump and Obama have been using the 2001 authorization for the use of military force against Iraq to say, well, that's the authorization there, but that one was specifically for Iraq. It didn't come on out and say the president can declare war just wherever he feels like it. That's not what it says. It's for Iraq, and we've made war in Iraq, and we wrecked the place. They're not happy about that, understandably, but there is no legal basis for a war against Iran, and Trump is flat out wrong at that point. All right, we're going to take a phone call here from Joe in California. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Just a few points before I get to my main point for calling. There could be a film made on the USS Liberty. Yes. Hollywood could produce it. Hollywood is well equipped to do so. They would just make a few tweaks, a few changes here and there. Egypt would be the attacking country, and Israel would come to the aid of the sailors.
Well, I'm sure that probably has been suggested more than a few times.
Mike, by the way, I heard a few days ago you were working on a autobiography, which I'm very interested in.
I don't think I said I was working on an autobiography. I mean, that would be an incredibly boring book. It just, No,
I think your life...
Rivero sits in front of a keyboard and types like crazy for...
No, but you've had an interesting life. A New Hampshire farm boy, NASA...
Yeah, I have had an interesting life, and the good news is they're not going to prosecute.
Now, on to my main point. Mike, as far as Iran is concerned, the one thing that worries me about Iran, and people always seem to dismiss this, is I see a lot of potential fifth columnists in Iran. Kurds, Arabs, Azeris. These are people that the U.S. could manipulate, could leverage in any potential invasion. The Azeris, I believe, are up living in the north near Azerbaijan. The Arabs, I don't know. The Arabs might be, I believe they're scattered on the coast. The Kurds, I believe they're up probably in the north of the country as well. And these are restive populations that may look favorably on a U.S. invasion, because especially the Kurds, that this will allow them to have their own country, and there's no love lost between them and the central government in Tehran.
Yes, you're absolutely correct there, and of course you've got a large concentration of Kurds along the border with Iraq, and they got tangled up in the Iran-Iraq war. It didn't work out very well for them, and they may remember that as well.
Now, I'm sure the Israelis are already in Kurdistan in Iraq. They're very close with the Kurds in Iraq, and I'm sure the Israelis already and the U.S. have people on the ground in Kurdistan in Iran. So it may not be it would still be a bloodbath, but it may not be as impossible a task as some seem to think. I mean, I believe any attack on Iran would be mostly from the air. It may not even involve boots on the ground. But if there were boots on the ground, there are potential allies on the ground that would greet these U.S. troops.
You mean the way the Taliban originally greeted the U.S. troops up in Afghanistan and then turned on them?
Yes, well, that could happen, but in the immediate, at the outset, well, I believe the U.S. had allies in the north of Afghanistan. That was can't recall his name. The gentleman who was killed by those Al Qaeda people posing as reporters or photographers, and Masood. Yeah. I think his men were the allies that the U.S. had in northern Afghanistan, but I think in Iran, yes, maybe in the immediate outset of an invasion, they would be allies, and then later on, who knows? But the U.S., I'm sure, they have potential allies, and I'm sure that they've been talking to for decades in Iran.
Well, it's still going to be a bloodbath, and the United States has no business going into Iran any more than it had any business going into Iraq or Syria or Libya. And right now,
I agree.
The current polls are showing that the American people overwhelmingly oppose attacking Iran. And that may have been another reason for Trump to pull back on the strike over the weekend, along with the acknowledgement that the drone was in fact invading Iran airspace. So, the American people were tired of war. We've had 18 years of war. We've had 18 years of living in a wartime economy, and nobody believes that any of these wars are just or moral. And we've had enough. We've really had enough. And next year being an election year, I'm sure that all of the candidates for office are realizing, this, yet another war could work against us.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Mike, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network. And we're going to go to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Mike, last couple of days I started listening a little bit to what I call corporate talk, just to see what the enemy is saying. All right?
Yes.
And on Sunday I heard a little bit of the neocon warmonger Mark Levin, and today I was listening a little bit to Glenn Beck. Okay, and Beck had on an author by the name of Brad Thor. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He used to want to be one of my favorite authors. He writes a lot about international stuff, about some kind of a kind of a spy by the name of Scott Harvest, former Navy SEAL. Fictional stuff, fighting terrorism. But anyway, but I stopped buying his books because he's making Russia the enemy. And today he was on there really. He's promoting a new book that evidently is just coming out today, and evidently it demonizes Russia. It makes them look like. And he was saying what we need to do is we need to cut off, completely isolate them, completely cut off their funds, make sure they can't get credit cards. Not that we could really do that, because they've got their own, they work on their own currency now too, and they're actually doing a lot better than this clown made it out to be. But what disgusts me is just this warmongering garbage by these neocons. And what I'm thinking, the reason I figured I'm going to call you, and I'm going to call Fault Lines tomorrow morning, with Stranahan and Nixon. And I want to propose that people boycott this book. Now, again, there's going to be a certain amount of people buy it, but if we can hurt the sales of this disgusting book, all the better, okay? Because we don't need to support these warmongers. We really don't. And the same thing with Levin. He's got a book out now, too, I understand. Don't buy it, folks. If you really believe in peace, if you're really tired of these warmongering neocons, don't buy their stinking books, whether it's whether it's a biography type of book, nonfiction like Levin, or whether it's a book by a fiction by a clown like Brad Thor. Don't buy them, folks. We don't need to demonize Russia. Russia could and should be our best friend.
Yes.
We don't need to be involved in a nuclear war with the only other power in the world that has the ability to blow us off the face of the earth as we have to them. Okay, it's still a mutual, what is it, a mad mutual assured destruction?
Yes.
That's still the situation. Okay, folks, don't buy these books. Pass the word around. Share. I'm going to the only reason I'm still on Facebook is to share stuff like this. I'm going to share it on Facebook. I'm going to share it on Twitter. Because, I don't care what they recommend. I couldn't care less what Twitter or Facebook recommends. I don't even bother with that. I basically use these things to pass information or to get information from certain people that I know, that we kind of a citizen journalist type of thing, I
Yes.
consider anybody who shares information really a citizen journalist. All right? We need to stop this stuff. The people need to rise up and say, no, enough is enough. We're not buying your crap. We don't think we don't need to go to war. Iran is not our enemy, and certainly Russia is not our enemy. Our enemy is within. Our enemy is the people running it right now who are in charge of this government, in charge of the corporacy, you know.
Corporatocracy.
These are the enemy.
Yes.
Well, corporatocracy, including these big tech companies and other big oil companies. And if we're going to get involved in war, it's going to be for them. It's not going to be for the people of this country. What's going to happen, though, is the poor and middle class kids from around the country, middle America, and from the ghettos, they're the ones, again, that are bleeding and dying, unless we have a draft, which could happen, of course. And then I don't think they would get away with that anymore. They would have to draft everybody. But the fact of the matter is, these rich people, these billionaires, and these warmongers, they're not going to sacrifice a thing. They're going to sit back there and generalize, including these talk show hosts, these so-called, you know, I'm not talking about you when I talk to talk shows. I'm talking about like what I call corporate talk. They're going to sit back there and they're going to blab on and on how important it is that the United States gets involved and that we're the leader of the free world. There's no free world anymore. This, you know, that might have held with the Soviet when we had the Soviet Union. Even there, I'm not so sure. Not the leader of anything. We don't need to be the leader of anything. You need to bring those troops back home, put them on the border, put a lot of them on the border, and defend this country and rebuild this country. That's all we need to do, Mike. You know, we need to stop these warmongers. And if we can, you know, they're trying to hurt us in the pocketbook. So I think it's time we hurt them. Please, folks. Brad Thor, I'm not sure the name, but it's his newest book comes out. Don't buy that book. I forget the name of it. Okay? The same thing with Levin's book. It's just come out. Don't buy it. Pass the word around to anybody you know. Don't buy these books. The only way we can hurt them is to hurt them in the pocketbook. Fine. Let's get them then. But don't buy these books because it's not going to, you know, they're just more propaganda. All it is. And they don't deserve to get rich off of our stupidity. All right? That's all I got to say, Mike.
Well, my guess is with the polls showing that Americans are tired of war, that probably these books are not going to be flying off the bookshelf to begin with. But, you know, obviously, yeah, the people who are trying to make money off of war, we need to starve them of that cash. And obviously, those who are pushing for peace and an end to the wars, they deserve our financial support, like Republic Broadcasting. So, absolutely.
Exactly. InfoWars deserves our support. They're still basically, I think Jones is getting a little bit better, by the way, lately. They're still alternate media or independent media. And there's more, too. Like I said, like fault lines. There's tons of great RT. Oh, by the way, he also put down RT. He says, nobody should watch RT. The guy Brad Thor, almost making it out like you're a traitor if you watch RT. And listen to this. This is how I meant to tell you this, too. He says they're trying to put out, for now, you may, agree about 5G to a degree that it's not harmful. They're trying to put out the fact that 5G is going to cause cancer. This is a Russian plot. First, I know where they get that from because Rick Sanchez of RT used to be a CNN reporter. Now he's like super reporter compared to what he was then. Okay, he came out with he conducted a series about the dangers of 5G. He's not a Russian. He's not a Russian agent, but he said there's a danger. Now I know you disagree. You don't think there's a danger, but either way, it's not a Russian plot. He's making it look like it's a Russian plot, and he says nobody should watch RT, like almost making it out like you're a traitor if you watch RT. Okay, so understand that too, folks. Watch RT. You get more real news in RT than you get on anything on our corporate media. Anything. The same thing with Sputnik. You get a lot more. As a matter of fact, I get more news out of Press TV than I do out of, which is the Iranian TV, than I do out of the corporate media because I don't get any kind of news out of the corporate media except lies. That's all we get.
Yep.
So again, understand that, folks. And by the way, more people should go to RT. By the way, RT is very popular. I was in Florida for a couple of days visiting my son. I'd stay in a motel because he couldn't take the two dogs in, and I'd drive down there with the dogs. I couldn't find anybody to take care of them. And I stayed at a motel, Red Roof Inn, because there are always a lot of dogs, a lot of pets. And they had RT.
Yeah.
They had DirecTV. RT was on there. So RT is very popular. It's real news. It's not fake news. They're not always supporting Putin. They're not. When he makes a mistake, they'll say it, like with that reporter the other day. Okay. So,
Mark, I'm sorry. I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back with another phone call after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, Republic Broadcasting does need your support. We don't have any big corporate sponsors. We don't have any foundations giving us grants. We don't have any NGOs funding us to put out their particular point of view on the world here. We are a people's network, and we need the help of the people to stay on the air, to stay on the internet. So the postal address where you can send, pardon me, a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. The network thanks you. All right, going on back to the phones here, we're going to talk to David in Iceland. Aloha, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thank you, Mike. And I like your listeners to support the station, and you, of course. I was just wondering, in all this rhetoric that's been going on, Donald Trump says that the drone, for example, was in international waters, and now I can read in Icelandic media that the evil Russians, in quote marks, it says that they were in airspace of Iran. So was it in airspace? Was it in international waters? Was it, I think if it's flying, it has to be in air. And I was just wondering, who can we trust? If I want to say to someone, where the drone was when it was shut down.
Okay, well, first of all, there are no international waters in the Straits of Hormuz. That channel is jointly owned by Oman and Iran. There's no international channel there. And the ships that transit the Strait of Hormuz do so with the permission of Iran and Oman. And in terms of international airspace, there is a small corridor there, but apparently the radar and GPS data shows that on its way back from its mission, the drone tried to take a shortcut. It cut the corner, and it did fly into Iranian airspace. And apparently they're continuing to find more and more pieces of the Global Hawk right up against the shoreline of Iran. So, yeah, it was definitely in the wrong place.
Okay, so where can I find this information that can, exactly be, that can be 100% trusted?
Well, you can read about the absence of international waters in the Straits of Hormuz by looking up the Wikipedia article about it. And
I'm talking about the data from the drone.
Well, that's coming out from Press TV, and they've put out an infographic showing the GPS track, and we put it up at whatreallyhappened.com a few days ago. And I think a web search is probably going to find it.
Yeah, but if I tell someone, they say, it's information from the evil Russians or the evil Iranians, and they've been faking the info.
Well, if they're out there talking about the evil Russians and evil Iranians, they've already made up their mind that we're good, they're bad, and you're not going to convince them otherwise. So why waste your time?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course. But you have no idea, if there's some media that can't be 100% trusted, of those big medias.
Well, they can't be. They absolutely can't be. And, one thing that you can do if you really want to waste your time with these people who are predisposed to think we're good, they're bad, just ask remind them, the people saying that the drone was in international airspace are the same people who said Saddam had nuclear weapons.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, okay, thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open now. So Mike Pompeo is now on a whirlwind tour trying to build a global coalition against Iran. And he's going around to all these countries in Europe and the Middle East saying, come on, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a war with Iran. And, there'll be medals and money. And, it's just going to be a lot of fun to get that taken care of here. And apparently, he's out there at the Saudi Kingdom and the United Arab Emirates. And he's claiming that he wants to deny Iran the resources to foment terror. Look who's talking. To build out their nuclear weapon system, which they never had, and to build out their missile program, which is the real goal here. It's to strip them of long-range missiles, basically to strip them of any weapons of deterrence, so that when they go into the invasion of Iran, it'll be easy. it's like he's telling the nations in Europe, we're going to get rid of their long-range missiles, and they can't hurt you, and it'll just be fun. It'll be a swell time. What a lovely war it's going to be. Anyway, we're going to take another break for commercials. We have another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones here to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
No media is to be trusted. Although I watch RT more than all these other stations because, after watching some excerpts because I know you talked about this with Mark from North Carolina. It's about Sean Hannity's meltdown. That shows you how who these people are. Like Sean Hannity has destroyed himself in the he should destroy himself in the eyes of most people who watched him because that's who these people are. That's the epitome of these people with his outburst. That's how these people, that's what these people think. They're evil. Like,
yes.
The sociopath. I mean, did you watch him have the melt? Like, did you watch the excerpts? He kept saying we need to have more weapons. We need to, he was just going crazy. Like, I mean, and then is he evangelical? I know he's a Christian, right? Like, is he like?
Yeah. So was Brother
He's not very
Torquemada.
godly. Like, yeah, he's not very godly. Like what would Jesus do? You know, like this is the fraud these people push. They're always telling everybody, we're exceptional, and you know, God's with us. And then you see his outburst, and you know what? That destroys his whole facade. What he did, and all of them. You know, but you know what's just the worst part, Mike, is Tucker's the lone voice because of those other pieces of crap on Fox News and CNN, MS. They're all crap. I mean, they're garbage. You know, like I mean, that gut free, the Five. I can't even watch. I don't watch those. It's like The View. You know, there's just horrendous people talking to each other about let's. You know, I think he said better drone than bones or something. You know, well, what about the bones on the receiving end of the drone attack? I mean, they just don't see other people outside of our tribe in the West, per se, as like human beings. Like that's just the bottom line. They look at them as just nothing.
Well, I'm wondering.
That's how I see it, Mike.
I'm wondering in their stock portfolios how much they're invested in weapons companies.
Yeah, not too many Bibles though.
Yeah, not too many Bibles
You know?
here, but you know, I mean, these talking heads on the corporate media, they're making a lot of money. I'm sure they're investing it someplace, and they're going to be talking up whatever business they're invested in. And if they've been hearing all these years, war's coming, war's coming, war's coming, they may be telling their broker, you know, get me invested in all these companies making the weapons. And then when they do their newscasts, it's always, yeah, we got to go to war. We got to have more weapons.
Like Mark said, like Glenn Beck, he's a piece of garbage. All these other people, I know the guy they have on Fox News, he's like a ex-CIA analyst, Buck Saxon, I think his name. He used to be on the Glenn Beck show. I mean, it's a revolving door. But like I said, Tucker's the only voice on, and Judge Napolitano. Like Brian Ducey, Steve Ducey and Brian I heard Brian Kilmeade, he's the same way. I mean, is there any sane people in this country anymore, Mike? Like, it's just, and they're talking heads for all this crap. You know, I mean, it's going to end badly, Mike, unfortunately. I mean, because how can this go on like this crap? It's just over and over and over. You know, nothing's changed. You know, like with Trump, he kept from going to kill 150 people. Mike, 40,000 people died from the Venezuelan sanctions for not getting medicines and stuff like that. So whatever Trump says, 150 people. What about the 40,000 people that died in Venezuela? You know, I just don't understand these people. It's like it's bizarre. It's bizarre, and they're evil people. You know, and Fox News is the worst because you know what? They're always like, you know, the conservatives, and they're always God bless. You know, they're always pushing that God bless patriotic theme. But like I said, Sean Hannity showed what these people are. You know,
yes.
that's what these people are. You know, and that's all I got to say, Mike. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot, Dustin. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open now. Okay, so story coming out of the original antiwar.com. No war with Iran for now. Emphasis on the for now. But Mike Pompeo and John Bolton still really, really want one. And yes, they do. Bolton never met a war he didn't love. And in this article, the reason it's significant is because it's saying that one of the reasons that Trump did cancel that retaliatory strike on Iran on Friday was because he was not certain that the drone or a Navy spy plane following the drone had not strayed into Iran's airspace in the Strait of Hormuz. This is according to the New York Times. So they're starting to hedge and hem and haw and say, yeah, it may have been where it wasn't supposed to be. Here is my question. What was this Navy spy plane doing following this drone? Normally, the Global Hawk flies at 65,000 feet. It was down at about 20,000 feet. And was that spy plane there to make sure they got video of Iran shooting down the drone? Was this really a setup? Did they send that drone into Iranian airspace in order to goad Iran into the strike? Because presidents in the past have willingly sacrificed not just military hardware, but military people to get a war going. Roosevelt did it right here in Pearl Harbor. So, anyway, as I mentioned to that earlier phone call, apparently an Iranian fisherman from the country's southern island of Qeshm has found more parts of the Global Hawk spy drone, which was shot down over the Sea of Oman after intruding into Iranian airspace. So now pretty much everybody's saying, yeah, it was in Iranian airspace. So, yeah, they're finding the bits and pieces all over the shoreline there in Iran here. Now, Donald Trump has said that Iran's leaders only understand strength and power. And he came out with this comment, no more John Kerry or Obama. And he said, Iran's leadership doesn't understand the words nice or compassion. They never have. Sadly, the thing they do understand is strength and power. And the USA is by far the most powerful military force in the world, with $1.5 trillion invested over the last 2 years alone. So Trump is back to talking tough. And that may be theater to sort of, try and counter the fact that he is still being savaged by the corporate media for not having gone through with the attack last Friday. Okay. By the way, Trump has announced more sanctions, this time on Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, which I'm sure is going to teach this guy a lesson if you ignore the fact that he died 30 years ago. And I'm sure that Trump probably meant to sanction Ayatollah Khamenei, but he got the wrong one. And a lot of people are making fun of him for that. Sanctioning a dead guy. Ooh, that'll teach him here. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu said his country will do everything to prevent arch-rival Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. And he said, Israel will not allow Iran, which calls for our destruction, to entrench on our border. We will do everything to prevent it from attaining nuclear weapons. Okay, there's a couple of problems with that. First of all, the claim that Iran is calling for the destruction of Israel is a deliberate mistranslation going back to Ahmadinejad. And the reason the translation was botched, it went through an organization called MEMRI, M-E-M-R-I, the Middle East Media Research Institute, which will read the Middle Eastern media and provide free English translations to the Western media. But as it turns out, MEMRI is an Israeli intelligence operation, and the translations are always skewed to make the Middle Eastern countries look bad. And what Ahmadinejad actually said was that Israel will one day vanish from the pages of history, and MEMRI translated as, we will wipe Israel off the map. It's not even close. And as far as the nuclear weapons, again, in the run-up to the P5+1 deal, the IAEA was carrying out all kinds of inspections. They're still carrying out inspections, by the way. They have full access. And they determined that Iran was not trying to build a nuclear weapon. The only so-called evidence they had for it was the laptop of death, which was this laptop that was laundered through MEK, which is a terrorist organization sympathetic to Israel. And it was this laptop full of blueprints and diagrams and pictures of nuclear weapons. And it was being shown all over the media with the story that it was stolen from an Iranian nuclear scientist. And see, here's proof they're trying to build a nuclear bomb. Until real nuclear weapons engineers looked at it and said, this is a joke. This is stuff they just cobbled off the internet. And it doesn't make any sense, and none of it could ever possibly work. It's a prop. It's a theater prop. So NATO is rattling their sabers now at Russia regarding Russia's new intermediate range missile system, and saying that if Russia doesn't destroy the new missile system, they will face consequences. There will be consequences if you don't destroy this new missile system you spent all this money on. And they're claiming, well, actually, it's the United States is claiming that this missile violates the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. And they're trying to make a big deal over this. Now, Russia, for their part, has come on out and said, no, it's not a violation of the treaty. And if you want to come on over here, we will test fire one of them, let you take all the measurements that you want to satisfy yourself that it is within the limits set by the INF. And of course, the U.S. has ignored that. They really don't care if the missile actually is within compliance with the treaty. They just want another reason to badmouth Russia. Now, Russia is warning that the U.S. deployment of U.S. missiles along their borders could create a crisis basically comparable to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. And the INF treaties actually already dissolved. The U.S. has been in violation of it for years. And NATO has expanded all the way to Russia's border, even though when the Soviet Union collapsed, NATO assured the new Russian republics they were going to stay within their current limits, which they didn't do here. So, and again, look at a map. Look who is encroaching on whose border. Look who is moving closer to the other country. It's not Russia. Russia's within its traditional borders. They want to be left alone. They want to do business. They want to engage in commerce. But the sabers are definitely rattling out there. And apparently a Russian warship has docked in Cuba, which is basically less than 100 miles off the American coast. And this is a frigate, the Admiral Gorshkov, armed with Caliber missiles, entered the port of Havana. Now, one of the few things Obama did that I thought was a really good idea is he tried to normalize relations with Cuba. To say, let's drop the embargo, let's have tourism going on down there, let's start importing that fine Cuban rum and those fine Cuban cigars, and go back to having fun. That nice Cuban music, those wonderful Cuban mechanics. And then Trump comes on in and basically says, we're going to go back, the embargo stays in place and we're going to make stink face at Cuba, which basically is a repeat of why Cuba became a Soviet satellite. Following the Castro Revolution, Cuba wanted normal relations with the United States. And the United States came on down with their usual heavy-handed way, and they said, well, we'll be your friend as long as you continue to sell Cuba's agricultural produce to American corporations at below market rates, which is what it impoverished the Cuban people under Batista. And you let the mafia back on in, give them back their hotels. And Castro said, no, I've got to give the Cuban people a decent standard of living. And it was that U.S. pressure to go back to being basically a slave state of the United States that drove Cuba into the sphere of influence of the Soviet Union, which ultimately led to the Bay of Pigs, which ultimately led to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and so forth and so on. If you look back at the history of America's foreign policy, they make so many mistakes, and it all comes out of this arrogance of the U.S. government, and not to mention the Central Intelligence Agency that, we're smarter than they are, we're stronger than they are, we can outthink them. And then they do all these horrible botch-ups like the Bay of Pigs here. Okay, down in Honduras, the protests there are escalating into violence, including Molotov cocktails and police fire. And the protesters are demanding the resignation of the country's president, Juan Orlando Hernandez. And apparently the issue is the growing privatization of Honduras assets and the austerity measures targeting the health and education sectors. So that is getting out of hand. You have to watch out for those money junkies, because greed is an addiction. It doesn't matter how much they've got, they have to have more. And they just feel justified in squeezing the people more and more and more for more wealth, until finally the people, they can't stand anymore. And that's where the revolutions come from. Now, a lot of people are talking about our military and whether it's really ready to go one-on-one against a military peer, or worst case, two military peers, Russia and China. And they're looking at the poor performance of the U.S. military across the Middle East, first in how long it took to get Iraq taken care of, the fact that we've basically lost in Afghanistan, we're losing in Syria, we're stalled in Libya. And according to this article, it's saying the big problem is that our military is top-heavy. There's a bloat of officers who are constantly fighting with each other. They're working for promotion. Very often they don't deserve it. Very often they're not adequately trained. If you remember these incidents we've had out here in the Pacific Ocean, where these U.S. warships have rammed commercial shipping, and it turns out that the crew in the bridge hadn't been adequately trained. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page, and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s. along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I'm watching the Fox News feed where the 9/11 first responders are holding a press conference following a meeting with Senator Mitch McConnell. And the reason for all the brouhaha is apparently the fund to take care of those 9/11 first responders has run out of money, and they're not going to put any more in there. I remember very clearly in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, where the head of the Environmental Protection Agency told those first responders, yes, you can go on down there. You don't need special respirators. The air is perfectly fine. And of course it wasn't. It was filled with powdered asbestos, among other toxic materials. And so these first responders have spent all the years since 9/11 dealing with mesothelioma, leukemia, various forms of cancers. And it's another reminder that once you are no longer of any use to the government, they could care less about you. Just go off and, die and get out of our way. All right, so we're talking about war, and we're talking about all this propaganda that we get about how Iran are the bad guys, and Russia's the bad guy, and China's the bad guy, and everybody's a bad guy except us. And I want to share a little statistic with you. Since the end of World War II, the U.S. government has killed more than 20 million people in 37 different nations. So, who do you think is the aggressor nation? Who do you think are the warmongers? 20 million. So, normally I don't do a lot of stories about stuff here in Hawaii, but in as much as I'm getting ready to leave, I figured, why not? So, story out of Station Gossip talking about how the liberal agenda here in Hawaii has really wrecked the place. Now, a lot of people think about, well, California is the liberal stronghold, but Hawaii's even more liberal. We've got like only 4 Republican members of the legislature. We've only voted for 1 Republican president, and that was Reagan. And our state is just rife with all kinds of corruption. This year, the FBI has labeled the amount of investigation into Hawaii as unprecedented. And of course, Honolulu County, which is where I'm sitting, is under investigation into the island-wide Honolulu police chief and the chief prosecutor, the whole department, bunch of federal trade investigations related to that rail system. The funding has just disappeared. And, we're looking like $9.2 billion for a 20-mile length railroad, which is still not built and may never be built. And then it's pretty nasty. Anyway, we got to take a break for station identification, and we'll be back after these few words.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Turning to our domestic politics here, over at Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton has announced they received 345 pages of records from the Department of Justice that show top FBI officials scrambling to write a letter to Congress to supplement then-Director James Comey's Senate testimony in an apparent attempt to muddle his message. And Judicial Watch obtained the records through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit because nobody in the government is responding to a simple request. They all have to be sued. So apparently, in an email thread starting on May 9th, 2017, with the subject line, Comey's testimony on Huma Abedin, forwarding emails was inaccurate. Basically, Comey had acknowledged that Huma Abedin was forwarding some of the Hillary emails, which included classified information, to Anthony Weiner, who was not entitled to be looking at them. And the FBI was trying to find some way to fuzz that up and say, well, Comey misstated it, and, you know, we didn't find that Huma Abedin did that, so they were covering up for here. As you know, pretty much on the same time last week when Trump called off that attack on Iran, he got hit with a rape allegation from E. Jean Carroll, who coincidentally has a book coming out. And she accused Donald Trump of raping her in a dressing room in high-end department store Bergdorf Goodman back in the 1990s. And, of course, the first question is, why didn't she say something back then? And is this just a publicity stunt to boost the sales of the books? Well, CNN, of course, immediately grabbed on and said, oh, yes, we've got to get her on and get the details of this horrific act done by the President of the United States of America. And it didn't really work out for CNN. Trump, of course, is denying that any rape took place. And Anderson Cooper welcomed the woman onto a CNN show, and it immediately got off kilter. And Cooper asked Carroll, you don't feel like a victim, after she suggested that was the case. And Carroll replied, well, I was not flung to the floor. And Cooper retorted, I think most people think of rape as a violent assault, to which Carroll replied, I think most people think of rape as being sexy. Anderson Cooper stumbled, and Carroll added, think of the fantasies, at which point Anderson Cooper ended the interview. So I don't think it's very good for CNN, and I don't think it's going to be very good for her book sales. It's another gold digger, basically what it is here. Gold has breached $1,400 per ounce. They can't keep it down anymore. They can't keep the silver down anymore. Apparently, the cryptocurrencies are also up. The dollar is down. And they did not have a good day on the stock market, needless to say. I think the Dow ended 179 down. So things are definitely getting chaotic over there. All righty. Somebody did a survey, pay scale, and they basically went out to American employees with college degrees and asked if they were happy, if they thought the degree had really been a benefit to them, and they found 2/3 of American employees regret their college degrees. They regret having gone to college. They regret those student loans. In fact, 27% of the survey respondents listed the student loans as their top misgiving. And studies have basically shown kids that come right out of high school and maybe they go to trade school or they enter the job market, they're better off financially than these kids who go to college. And of course, if you look at college today and what they're teaching, you know, it's all the liberal utopia, art history majors and, you know, LGBTQ studies, and you really can't get a job with that anyway. So, alrighty, consumer confidence has fallen sharply, and one area where that is really showing up, home sales are slowing. People don't want to take out that mortgage. They're not sure they're going to be able to make those payments. And I know that the corporate media is out there saying, oh, the economy's great, it's wonderful, we've got single-digit unemployment, and it's just more lies. This is kind of a heartbreaking story, and this is from governmentslaves.com, and it's only because Claire's from San Francisco, and I've been to San Francisco many times, in particular when I worked on Day After Tomorrow, and back then it was beautiful, and I loved it. And the company where I worked on The Day After Tomorrow was called The Orphanage. If they'd offered me a job, I would have taken it and moved to San Francisco from Hawaii. But Orphanage went out of business soon after. And I'm glad I didn't move there because according to this article, the conditions on the streets of San Francisco are now comparable to the slums of Mumbai, Delhi, Mexico City, Jakarta, and Manila. You want to talk about a nation in decline, that's one indicator. And I'm hearing the same thing about Los Angeles and other major liberal stronghold cities. They're just decaying. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And Nancy Pelosi is out there talking about the illegal aliens. And she's out there saying, well, just because they violated their status is not a reason for deportation. Well, Nancy, yes, it is. They've broken the immigration laws. They're not supposed to be here. And if they're not supposed to be here, that's the reason to deport them. But unfortunately, the Democrats are counting on illegal immigrant voters to win next year. And they will say and do anything to keep flooding them into this country. Now, former View co-host and left-wing fanatic Rosie O'Donnell was on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live. And she not only defended Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's outrageous comparisons of illegal detention centers to concentration camps, but she claimed there were over 100,000 concentration camps across the United States of America. So, I mean, that's utterly ridiculous. I mean, even the Holocaust Museum has come on out and said that they reject Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's analogy between detention centers and the image of the Nazi Holocaust camps. All right, we're going to take a phone call from Jim in Illinois. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. You mentioned illegal immigrants. I am strongly against illegals coming into this country. But after saying that, the way this administration and also the previous administration, the way they're treating children down there is unmoral and un-American. You know, you can blame the parents, and I agree with that. Yeah, but why punish the kids? I mean, they're talking about a lot of these kids that have blankets, no sanitation, they're getting bad food and other things. Now, it's not the kids' fault that they were told to come to America, but if you're going to lock them up, then treat them halfway proper.
I would say just send them back across the border and let mommy and daddy take care of them.
Oh, I would agree with that also, but unfortunately, you know, they're separated from their parents, so that's not being done. I know they have some of the kids have relatives in America, and they're trying to locate them. But this started under Barack Obama, by the way, and now it's gotten worse. But it's really kind of makes America looks really, really bad when you have kids really being mistreated, and it doesn't have to happen.
Well, what would you do, and how would you pay for it?
First of all, like you stated, I will send them back home right away.
Yeah.
But you know, lawyers are going to prevent that. Number two, as far as paying for it, we're broke. We're not even taking care of our own homeless people in America.
Right.
You know. So, but again, I think you're a very compassionate person. You don't want to see little kids being neglected.
No, I don't. But again, I think this is the fault of the parents, encouraged by the Democrats and the open border people. And it's it's their fault. And I think these kids ought to be sent. First of all, they shouldn't have been let into the country in the first place. That's why we need the wall. Yeah. So when the parents bring them up to our border, there's a big wall there, and all they can do is take their kids, turn around, and go home.
Right. You know, but there's a time when an illegal came across the border, they would be sent back the same day.
Yes.
But for some reason, they're not doing that anymore.
No, they've got this ridiculous catch and release program where, you know, everybody's saying, oh, I want to apply for asylum. I want to apply for asylum. And somebody's coaching these illegals on how to do this.
Right.
You know, they're literally being given pamphlets to say, when you cross the border, say that you are requesting asylum. And then, of course, you fill out the paperwork on that. And they're given a court date, which is months in the future. And most of these illegal immigrants never show up for their court date because they know they don't really qualify for asylum. And then they're out in the general population, you know, getting free handouts, carrying contagious diseases, adding to the crime problem. And I'm very disappointed in Donald Trump that he did not carry through with his promise that all of these illegal immigrants who fail to show up for their court dates were going to get grabbed and thrown across the border.
Well, he backed down on Sunday. He changed his mind on Sunday.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi called him up and said, no, don't do it. And Trump caved.
Jesus. Well, again, we have a poor leader in the White House. I did not vote for the man. But when it comes to illegal immigration, I agree that something needs to be done, you know, as soon as possible. And the country is full. We don't have enough room for our own citizens, much less illegals.
Yes.
So, well, Michael, I'm going to let you go on that note. You take care.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Okay. Now, getting back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and apparently she did this trip to the border in El Paso, Texas last year. And they were taken at a protest held at the Tornillo Detention Center. But the photographs basically focused on Alexandria herself, just looking forlorn and sad. And even her supporters are saying this was a little over the top. These images were obviously staged and posed for her to look like she was concerned about what was happening at the border. And the photos really didn't show much of the conditions of what was going on. Now, this story bothers me a little bit. This is coming from Domagood. And apparently, there are people down there near the border who are trying to donate diapers, toys, and other things to those children at the Border Patrol facilities in Texas, they are being turned away. And apparently there is a big pile of these goods just being left outside, with notes saying, these are kids. And I'm in agreement with this part. If private citizens want to go down and help, they should be allowed to do so. And I don't understand. Well, it may be an insurance liability issue that if ICE takes in some of these donated items and they've been potentially sabotaged or they harm one of the kids, then it's a lawsuit and it gets really ugly here. All right, Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott announced Friday he's going to send another 1,000 National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, while accusing Congress of failing to take action on the growing humanitarian crisis. That brings the total number of Guard members on the Texas border to 2,000. There are also 1,400 active-duty soldiers who remain at the border, according to an Army spokesman. Now, apparently this threat of sanctions against Mexico is having an effect, because Mexico is sending 15,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. So they may be getting ready to shut it down from their side, and that would be a really, really good thing. Gallup just recently had a poll, and more Americans than ever are saying that the illegal immigration is the top problem. And I think most people would absolutely agree, and not just those where the illegal immigrants are showing up. We know that we need a strong border. And what's really frustrating is Eisenhower succeeded in shutting that border down. It was called Operation Wetback, which of course would get the liberals' knickers in a twist today. Oh, you're being insensitive, you're being racist. But he shut that whole border down, and he did it with a border patrol 1/10 the size of what we have today. Now, if Eisenhower could do it, why can't Trump? That's an important question. And again, I am strongly disappointed in Trump that he did not carry through with his promise to start these massive deportations of illegal immigrants who fail to show up for their court dates. Okay. There has been a big stink regarding this nearly 100-year-old memorial cross in Bladensburg, Maryland. It was put up to honor the soldiers who died in World War I. It is standing on public land. And, of course, you had all these people out there saying, oh, First Amendment, separation of church and state, blah, blah, trying to get it torn down. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said it can stay there. And I think it should stay there. It's a war memorial. It's not necessarily a religious symbol as much as it's a war memorial. For some reason, the Anti-Defamation League decided to weigh in on this one and saying it was disappointing that the Supreme Court didn't tear down that cross. So they got in on it. And I have a comment here about all these things that are being torn down, whether it's crosses or crescent and stars or Confederate statues and the rest of it. If you go around this country tearing down everything that offends anybody, it is soon going to be a vast wasteland. There will be nothing left. Because unfortunately, too many people define their identity these days as being offended by something. Now, I'm not a believer. I don't have a problem with the cross being there. I don't have a problem with crosses anywhere. I don't have a problem with the Star of David. I don't have a problem with the crescent and star. Because these symbols, although they don't mean anything to me, they do mean something to other people. And if we're going to respect each other, we respect their symbols as well. And this constant warfare over tearing down this and tearing down that, it's a culture at war with itself. And I think we need to go back to a culture in which we do respect each other. We live and let live. And we say, okay, there's a mosque over there. That's important to those people. Let's leave them alone to their daily prayers in peace. Or there's a synagogue over there. Let's leave it in peace. Or there's a church here. Let's leave that in peace. There's a statue of Robert E. Lee. Let's leave it up. It's meaningful to a certain group of people in this country. You're never going to have an offensive free country unless it's totally bulldozed flat and paved over. That will be the only way that you'll have a country where nobody finds offense with everything, is a country that has nothing in it. So we need to basically, again, cut each other a little bit of slack. All right, we're coming up here on a commercial break. We'll be back after these few words.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're getting to this whole thing about political correctness and, you know, everybody attacking everybody else's historical icons. over past and sometimes imagined indiscretions. We were talking the other day about this high school where there's a mural of George Washington, the first president of the United States of America, commander of the American Revolution. And some of the students said, "Oh, it's offensive. It offends me." And so the school is going to replace the mural at a cost of $600,000. Now, over at Harvard Medical School, they've had a tradition of hanging up portraits of past directors of the medical school on the walls. And for reasons of history and whatever, the vast majority of them are white. And so the students are now demanding that these portraits be taken down because it's creating this impression that only white people can be doctors. Well, we know that's not true. But we also know it's true that back when these people were in their positions of authority at Harvard Medical School, they were white. And that's just the historical reality. So anyway, Harvard's former dean of the faculty is condemning this idea that they're going to remove the portraits of white doctors simply for being white in the name of diversity. Over at UC Santa Cruz, one of their campus decorations is an old mission bell. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with it, California's early history involved what were called the missions that were set up by the church all the way up and down the coast. And they all had bells to call people in for worship and just basically signal the next mission along the way that people were, coming for a visit. But apparently at UC Santa Cruz, the mission bell has been denounced as deeply painful because it symbolizes racism and dehumanization. And I'll be very, very honest, some of those missions were deeply abusive of the indigenous native population. But apparently UC Santa Cruz has caved on this one, and they're going to remove the mission bell. And like I said in the last segment, you keep going this way, there's going to be nothing left in this country. It's just going to be one flat piece of ground with nothing on it. And now the latest attack against the history of the Confederacy is they're starting to go after all these schools across the South that were named after various Confederate figures, generals, stalwarts, and there's got to take them down. Our history and our culture are being erased so we can be multicultural. And instead of the migrants assimilating to our culture and our history, we're expected to assimilate to theirs. And I keep seeing all these stories about how students in schools are actually being taught elements of Islam. This story, it shows how out of control the police can get. Took place in the city of Euclid, Ohio, at a skating rink, and their kids from a local school were having an end of the school year skate party, and the police basically showed up and declared that the Miggs Playmore roller rink said that they were over capacity. And the owner of the rink basically said, no, if you look at the plaque on the wall, we're allowed to have 400 people in here, and we only have about 200. But the police basically went around and started telling all the students they had to leave. And up until that point, it had been a very pleasant party. The kids were behaving themselves. There wasn't any kind of problems. But the kids, understandably, got very upset. And the police got violent. And they started pepper spraying the kids. And apparently the police called for backup, and the rest of the Euclid police basically stormed the building like a SWAT unit in their riot gear, shooting the children with pepper balls. So the kids are, eyes watering, they're throwing up, they're coughing. This was completely inappropriate behavior. Totally inappropriate behavior. Why do they have to behave that way? We're going to take another break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go to the phones to Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, a couple callers ago, you had a caller talking about the inhumane treatment of the children at the border and the whole concentration camp thing. And I just wanted to say that caller, I'm not sure why the caller actually is believing the mainstream media for all this bad information, because we've caught them how many times now with bad information. So, and the second part would be, if I were to drop my child off somewhere and leave them and say, you know, go this direction and leave them behind, I'm pretty certain that Child Protective Services would be visiting me, and I'd be in some trouble for child endangerment and negligence. So I'm just not sure why the caller believes all that he's heard from mainstream media. They've been caught time and time again for lying. So I just, with a bucket of salt, take what they give you with a bucket of salt.
Well, you know, I mean, if the conditions down there are so terrible and it's a concentration camp, it's got to be the only concentration camp in the world that people risk their lives climbing over a fence to get into.
Yeah. So that's it. So just like I said, what mainstream media is talking about, you just got to take it with a bucket of salt these days. Everything they tell us is pretty much wrong.
Yep. And again, you know, they're basically pushing to just let those kids out into the general population. That's it, to flood this country with illegal immigrants, to sort of water down the demographics of us legal American citizens here. Okay, Project Veritas came out with a new video in which a former Google employee came on out and just flat out said, Google is tinkering with their algorithms to basically work against Trump during next year's elections, and admitted they had done it in 2016 as well. But they're going to do it all that much more. And this has caused a bit of a stink all across social media. Reddit has shut down Project Veritas. Google has basically blocked searches for them. Google owns YouTube. YouTube is deleting all the videos that were put up about this stink. And my question is Trump going to do anything about this? I mean, this is definitely interfering with an election on a massive, massive scale. And if Trump doesn't deal with it, they'll succeed. They're going to make him a one-term president. Now, O'Keefe is saying that there are more big tech insiders about to blow the whistle on the true extent of the censorship that is now going on against conservatives. Apparently, documents have surfaced showing a Google engineer labeling prominent conservatives as Nazis. So there's definitely a biased culture inside Google. And, you know, I remember that movie, The Interns. That was a fun movie, and I really liked it. It made Google look like the place you'd want to be and you'd want to work. Not anymore. Not with all this stuff coming on out here. So, again, something has gone hideously wrong with social media, and social media has succeeded in doing to the internet what the internet was designed to avoid, which is censorship. When ARPANET was first designed, it was designed without any central hub or controlling authority. And the idea was it could survive literally a nuclear attack and lose up to 1/3 of its structure, and the remaining 2/3 would still work. That's the way it was designed. And when the ARPANET became the internet and went public, the government immediately started to think, how can we get back in control of what people are saying or thinking? And that's where Google and Facebook and all these other social media companies came from. They were set up to basically lure people into a centralized hub that could be censored and controlled, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. And Trump better look at this, or he's a one-term president. I know he's got a re-election campaign, but I think Tucker Carlson is right. He's really not all that enthusiastic about a second term. You know, he's been president. He gets bragging rights for the rest of his life. Maybe he just doesn't care. But he's basically broken so many of his campaign promises. The wall, vaccine safety, honest elections, lowered prescription costs. and he's turned his back on social media. And either he is completely unaware or he simply doesn't care what an important role social media played in landing him that job that he's got. But I think next year, a lot of people who really went out and hit the wall supporting him or opposing Hillary, they're not going to be as enthusiastic about it. They're going to sit back and say, well, you know, he was another disappointment. He was another failure. So anyway, the other day we were talking about this robot called the Knightscope K5, which is starting to be employed by police forces across the country. And it will simply roll around and patrol and I guess send TV pictures back to somebody. And apparently it's been around for a while. And a few years ago, one of these basically, I guess, committed suicide. It was in Washington, D.C. at a mall, and it just drove itself right into a water fountain. Actually, it was an office complex. And, of course, they were making fun of it. Did it hate its job? Was it suicidal? Alrighty, let's see. Okay. More news about vaccines. Apparently, more than 1 out of 4 children who get the measles vaccination still develop the measles, according to the latest study. They don't really work. In fact, there's a growing body of evidence that getting the measles vaccine will actually give you the measles. And I think the fact that the government is continuing to mandate vaccination and take away our freedom to choose for ourselves and our children tells us we've descended into a fascist economic dictatorship. The government doesn't treat us like human beings deserving of respect or freedom. The government will decide what medicines you will take, what medicines you won't take. The government will decide what foods you will have, what foods you can't have. We're being treated like livestock, not like human beings. Okay. Apparently, Merck Pharmaceuticals has been accused of committing fraud in its Gardasil vaccine safety trials, putting millions of young girls at risk for ovarian failure or even death. Now, remember when Gardasil first came on out in Europe, there were all these reports of girls coming down with incurable narcolepsy and all kinds of other problems. But they just keep pouring it out there. Now they want to give it to boys who really are not going to get cervical cancer. But it doubles the sales. And that's really what it's all about. More sales. Forcing you to buy things you don't want, can't afford, to make the corporations more money. And we keep seeing these stories about how these vaccine companies are caught committing fraud, and yet nobody stands up and says, maybe there needs to be a moratorium on these vaccines. Of course, you got the CDC out there saying, oh, no, the vaccines are safe and they're wonderful. And every year they have a longer and longer list of mandatory vaccines for kids to have. And you need to understand, CDC is not an impartial arbiter because CDC owns the patents on a huge number of vaccines, off of which they make billions of dollars every year. A lot of people think CDC is part of the government. It is not. It is a privately owned company. And they get government grants, but they're not under government control. They're in business to make money, to push vaccines. That's what they do. Now, speaking of CDC, they have a foundation, and one of the groups they're partnered with is called MailChimp, which is a mass emailing utility that you can use to maintain mailing lists and put out things like newsletters. And as of June 7th, MailChimp shut down accounts for anti-vaccination content. And MailChimp announced it was adding the anti-vaccination category to its routine searches for prohibited content. Nowhere on MailChimp's website did it elaborate what constituted anti-vaccination content. And CNBC noted the company began enforcing the decision last week without any discussion or reasoning as to why the enforcement needed to be done. Now, Facebook reports revealed that MailChimp's account cancellations began before they released their public statement. And the preemptive move resulted in customers locked out of accounts and unable to retrieve their data without warning or a clear remedy. And they're partnered with the CDC Foundation. Gee, I wonder if there was it's collusion. Do you hear me? It's collusion out there. The internet is being taken over. It's being turned into yet another corporate-controlled content delivery system. And just like corporate media, certain topics will not be tolerated. Can't question anything Monsanto is doing. Don't you dare talk about that synthetic bovine growth hormone. Can't question vaccines. Can't question liberalism. I'd say we're definitely starting to look more and more like a dictatorship in this country. We've lost our freedom of speech, at least as far as the internet is concerned. They're still at war on the Second Amendment. There is no more Fourth Amendment. And because these pharmaceutical companies are operating without fear of reprisal or consequence, they're getting more and more reckless. The opioid crisis is a good example. These pharmaceutical companies were bribing doctors to prescribe these highly addictive medications. There's no moral difference between them and that guy down at the street corner under the street light, handing out free samples trying to get the kids hooked. It's exactly the same mechanism. And right now in this country, Americans are more likely to die of an opioid overdose than in a car accident. And Big Pharma is making millions off of these addicts. And again, I don't see that a lot is being done about it. Okay, the Center for Environmental Health sent legal notices to Keurig Dr. Pepper, which owns Penafiel, as well as Whole Foods, owner of the Starkey Water brand, after independent testing showed unsafe levels of arsenic in these bottled water products. Now, if you're like me, you sort of have this assumption that the bottled water is better for you than what comes out of the tap. In some parts of the country, that's generally true. But then you find out all of a sudden the bottled water has arsenic, which is a carcinogen. It can cause cancer. It can cause reproductive harm. And the organization, the Center for Environmental Health, is saying the products have to have a health warning under California's consumer protection law. You know, bottled water contains arsenic. How does it even get in there? Is it coming out of the ground? Are they just not getting it out with the filters? Now, most bottled water is marketed with images of natural springs. And I will concede that sometimes what is coming out of those natural springs is not necessarily just pure water. There's a lot of mineral content. Some of it can be questionable. But you would think that if they're taking this water and they're going to filter it and put it in a bottle, that they're going to screen for harmful content and take it out. But apparently they're not. The reality is most of these bottled water products, it's just tap water. And they'll run it through some filters and they'll add some mineral content for taste, and that's it. It's the same water you're getting out of your faucets. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Joe in Alaska. And Joe, I'm probably going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, just Morris Fishbein, 40 years head of the CDC, was originally a professional circus clown. What do you suppose the circus clown's job is to do?
Well, to basically amuse people, and the fact that he was a circus clown in his youth, I don't think that's a negative reaction. I mean, you know, I paid for college as a professional magician.
Well, okay, he flunked anatomy in med school and never treated a patient. Oh, I look, the purpose of the clown is to distract everybody when there's, you know, the lion chews up the trainer or something. They run out the clowns, right? Mm-hmm. Just like they do at the rodeo when okay.
That's definitely true of the rodeo clowns. You know, they're there, in fact, to save the rodeo riders.
Well, that too, yeah. But no, they're going to try and distract the public from the horror.
Okay, Joe, stay on the line. Joe, stay on the line. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Joe in Alaska, and we're talking about the former head of the CDC, who apparently didn't do all that well in medical school. And Joe is basically liking this individual to being a circus clown, which apparently he was early in his youth, as merely being a distraction. And if you think about it, the top figures in any organization are there to take the media focus, to make sure that the corporate story gets on out, and that you don't have lower down people in CDC running off to Project Veritas.
Hello?
Joe, are you there?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Morris Fishbein, he sold a whole lot of snake oil and a whole bunch of other drugs, too. He's the one that corporatized the CDC. Or no, was it AMA? But,
no, the AMA is something
that's
completely different.
Anyway, no, it was the CDC, yeah. I got up in front of the city council here in Nome, and I pointed out that they own the patents for drugs and vaccines and blah, 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 and they weren't any connected to the government. Anyway, yeah, no, he's a snake oil salesman. That from beginning to end for 40 years. Anyway, I believe he's dead now, but have you heard the latest atrazine?
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it's supposed to do.
Well, it's another herbicide, similar to
Oh,
glyphosate.
yeah, the one they're trying to bring on to replace glyphosate.
Yeah, well, you know what it does? It makes frogs, it stops their testosterone, and they turn into females.
Okay.
So, well, that story just came out across my phone, a week ago or less. But yeah, this atrazine business, it apparently needs a lot more exposure, or a lot less exposure in the environment, in my opinion. But this might have something to do with all this LGBTQ, and I don't know.
You absolutely
Anyway.
could be right. And I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if looking at how bizarre the behavior of Americans is becoming, whether it's extreme violence or, just acting out, if there was in fact an environmental chemical aspect. I just did a quick web search on it, and there's a whole bunch of articles about atrazine's effect on testosterone levels and rat males, frogs, and so forth. And it's definitely nasty stuff. All right, well, listen, Joe, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification, and we will be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And during the break, I was reading through some of the literature, and there was a lot of it about this atrazine. And in all of the studies done on animals that have been exposed to it, they all say the same thing. It turns the testosterone into estrogen. It feminizes the animals, or chemically castrates them. And this stuff has apparently been widely used pesticide for like 10 years now. And it sounds to me like, again, nobody wants to ask, what is this doing to humans? Because nobody wants the answer to that. But I just put up one of the many articles about it. Berkeley News had it. Pesticide atrazine can turn male frogs into females. UC Berkeley, atrazine exposure disturbs frog sexual development. And hormone disrupting weed killer taints drinking water for millions. And apparently that one does show human health harm from atrazine in drinking water. Wow, that's nasty stuff. Nasty stuff. All right. Oh, we've got a caller on the line here. Peter in Texas. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. I just, what Trump did about calling off the attack, that seems consistent with what I see him doing. I think before he goes into negotiations, he wants to convince his partners that he's willing to go to war. And I think he did it with North Vietnam. He starts off with,
with North
I'm
Vietnam?
willing to do this. North Korea. He was playing the tough guy album. And I think he starts off, okay, I'm ready to bomb you. I'm ready to go to war. And he's got to convince these people that he's ready to go to war. And once he thinks he's done that, then he'll sit down and negotiate from there. It seems like that's the consistent pattern I see. So
well,
I think
it certainly did not work in North Korea, and it's certainly not working in Iran. And I think maybe that Trump needs to learn a little bit more about foreign diplomacy.
We're not doing. I thought we're doing okay in North Korea. I thought the guy was making more concessions and things were doing okay. Maybe I'm wrong. That's the last I heard.
Well, I mean, Kim Jong-un is talking about reviving their nuclear weapons program, and they're certainly not backing off the long-range missiles. What they're waiting for is for Trump to make concessions, because that's where it really falls down. Trump's attitude is, you give us everything we want first, then we'll do something nice for you. And it really doesn't work with a lot of world leaders. Kim Jong-un, especially with the Asian mindset, Kim Jong-un's attitude is, we'll give a little, then you give a little, then we'll give a little more, then you give a little more, and slowly, bit by bit, we'll get down to where we want to be. But Trump didn't want to play that way.
Well, I listen to different news stations, and maybe it's just the propaganda I'm hearing. I'm hearing that he is making progress. Maybe that's not so. The other thing I want to point out is that I think a lot of times you really need to give the police the benefit of the doubt. I've worked in alternative schools, and these guys go out there and they're just being spit in the face every day by people who are stupid, mean, and ugly. I mean, these guys deal with trash all the time, and they deal with people you don't want to deal with, or you want to near. And so the advice, I would always give any kid or any adult or myself is when the cops show up and they say sit down, you sit down. They say stand up, you stand up. And the next day you can go see the mayor, the chief of the police, or your lawyer. But when the cops show up, they don't need to debate whether or not they're in charge or not. They deal with really, really tough. I think you should.
Peter, there is something wrong with your phone. You keep fading out every once in a while.
Well, I'm just saying, police have very, very tough jobs, and when the police show up, you should do what they say and take care. If they do something wrong, take care of it the next day with your lawyer or with the mayor or with the chief of police.
Well, in the case of this skating rink, the police were clearly in the wrong. And I'm sorry, I'm not one of those people who are going to go along, with authority when the authority is clearly in the wrong. The skating rink was authorized to hold 440 people, of which they had about 250, and the police just overreacted. The owner of the rink pointed out the sign and said, "We're within compliance here."
I think that's bad advice. When the police say sit down. When it's deal with it the next day. You don't tell the police. You're just gonna get kids in trouble telling them you should stand up for your right then and there. You need to
Peter, I think the Founding Fathers would be very much ashamed of you, and thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Jim in New York. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Mike. I saw on an article that Antifa was threatening or protesting Tucker Carlson.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah, they doxed him.
It's funny, and I've always had this suspicion Antifa are working for the deep state. Notice right after Tucker, tells Trump to be cautious with Iran, then they go after Tucker. It's almost like they're mad that he didn't go to war with Iran. Antifa.
Yes.
Intimidating conservative people who are against war to be for war. It's kind of strange. Also, that woman came out of the woodwork accusing President Trump of rape right after he didn't bomb Iran. It's almost like there's media pressure. The media, the so-called liberal media, is disappointed that Trump didn't attack Iran. Very strange.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. They've been raging at him all week long.
Yeah, it's very strange. It seems, looking at some of the media pundits, they seem like they wanted a war, and they're mad at Trump for not bombing Iran. And I find it very odd. It seems whenever he doesn't, he becomes dovish, if you will. The media picks up the anti-Trump rhetoric when he's not bombing or threatening to start a war. Very strange.
Well, it certainly was on full display, starting over the weekend. And as we've had other callers call into the show and just saying, you're seeing people like Sean Hannity is out there and just saying, we should have got ahead. They're accusing Trump of being a coward, of having his hand on the chicken switch. And again, now we're finding out that Trump may have been well aware that the drone was over Iranian airspace, and that's why he pulled back from the attack. And again, given that there was apparently a Navy plane shadowing the drone, it's smelling to me more and more like this was a setup, that they deliberately sent that drone into Iranian airspace to let Iran shoot it down to create this pretext for going on with an attack.
Yes, I think so. I think we're going to probe and do all these little games with Iran. It's almost like we're already in a slow motion war with Iran.
Oh, and we have been for a very, very long time. And
I compare it to, when we wanted to provoke Japan before World War II with the oil embargo.
Yes.
And there's a lot of similar parallels with Japan. And, they're going to keep pushing, and eventually someone will sink a ship, probably Israel, and blame it on Iran. The only thing may be
Israel has experience doing that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. The only thing that may give pause is, our only hope is some generals in the Pentagon would warn that this would be a very costly war. I think we'll lose planes if we were to bomb Iran.
I would agree with that, but we're already getting word that officials within the Pentagon are saying we can't take this one on. The U.S. military is just stretched all over the globe right now, and after 18 years of war, the machinery is worn out, the troops are worn out, they're demoralized, the stockpiles of munitions are drawn down, and there just isn't any more money with which to replace it all. Even with the new, even higher military budget this year, the military is spending it faster than the government can pour it in.
Yes. I don't understand. I think Russia and China, they're a little quiet on this whole thing. I wonder, they should be at the UN doing.
Well, we don't know what's going on in the back channel discussions. We don't know what's going on inside the United Nations. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of discussions going on. And I'm sure that both Russia and China probably expressed their disapproval over this. But this whole thing with the drone and the retaliatory strike that almost happened, they were rushing it. They wanted to just get it pushed through before anybody could have a second thought and turn it back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, let's pray. I know you're an agnostic, but let's hope that there's no conflict with Iran. But as long as you have Bolton there and Pompeo, Bolton heads the NSA. That's the perfect agency to do a false flag.
Well, NSA is more signals intelligence. It would be either CIA or Mossad who would do the false flag.
Yeah. Well, it's very disturbing. But as long as Bolton's there, I'd be very worried. But
well, at this point, there will be another provocation. They've been working. They've been working for war with Iran for all of these years. They're not going to quit now just because they botched the last two false flags. There's going to be something big like an outright ship sinking or an attack on a U.S. warship. Another story that was floating around a few days ago was that Israel was going to attack a refinery in Saudi Arabia and blame Iran for it. Something is going to happen. They will do something. They want that war. They want to do something that will force Trump to go along with the invasion of Iran so that he doesn't lose face.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking my call, Mike. Have a good show.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And the phone lines are now open, 800-313-9443. And we're going to do a shout out now to our Honor affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Okay. This actually came out of the Daily Mail, which I think we can classify as corporate media. And they're actually starting to acknowledge problems with antidepressants. and they're talking about this study that found that taking antidepressants actually raises the risk of suicide. And they're saying there should be a warning. And here in the United States there is. It's in really, really fine print on that package insert. But the research from the study found depressed people on the drugs were more than twice as likely to attempt suicide as similar patients who were not taking them. One of the problems that you have with antidepressants is it reduces your impulse control. And one of the stories I remember from ssristories.org was this kid who was put on these medications because of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And he attempted suicide. They got to him in time. And after it was all over, they said, "Why'd you do it?" And he said, "I don't know. It just popped into my head and I couldn't help myself." These medications are insanely dangerous. And we need to remember that pretty much all, most if not all, of these mass shootings that the gun grabbers like to wave at us all the time involved people who are either on or withdrawing from antidepressants. And it's when you're withdrawing that you are most at risk of a severe mental episode. But nobody wants to talk about it because antidepressants make money and Big Pharma is making lots of money and they do lots of campaign donations. There was actually, believe it or not, a congressional hearing into this link between antidepressants and violent self-destructive behavior. But as is usually the case, when big money is involved, nothing was actually done. All right, we're going to grab a phone call now from Tim in Michigan. Aloha, Tim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I think it's kind of funny that you're talking about antidepressants. Because that police robot you were talking about earlier, was it on antidepressants before it committed suicide?
Well, I don't know. It occurred to me that it might be the case, but then I couldn't find a mouth on the robot where it could swallow a pill.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, down in the Dominican Republic, they're having a real problem, obviously, where a whole bunch of tourists from the United States have died, and it's suspected that they were poisoned. The FBI is down there now. They're testing the bottles in the little mini bars in the hotel rooms to see if they can find what's going on here. Now, Dominican Republic officials are saying these deaths were all due to natural causes, and that these reports of the mysterious deaths and numbers of death, it's just manufactured hysteria. And of course, what they're trying to do is salvage what's left of their tourism industry, which because of these deaths has fallen off a cliff. And we're trying to figure out, what's going on. Why are U.S. tourists being targeted? Is somebody trying to undermine the economy of the Dominican Republic, which relies heavily on tourism? Is there somebody running around the island who doesn't like Americans? Is it the Dominican Republic equivalent of a serial killer, or in this case, a whiskey killer? And again, a lot of people are concerned. I think it's up to 12 now that have died. And I noticed the other day, Fox News was doing a big story about it. But apparently the Dominican Republic officials have conducted their own autopsies. And in one case, and I think this is kind of a dead giveaway, they urged the family to allow the body to be cremated before it was sent back home. And that right there tells me that the Dominican Republic officials have an idea what's going on, and they don't want it to get out. So again, we're seeing this string of murders. And again, what is the motive? Is it just somebody who gets their jollies killing people? Or is it somebody out to undermine the economy of the Dominican Republic? Because if you think about it, if the economy in the Dominican Republic crashes, somebody who's really rich could go down there and start buying up all the hotels and resorts for pennies on the dollar. And these kind of things do get done. In the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti, all that humanitarian aid money that was being sent down there was actually being used to buy up all the resorts whose value had basically plunged through to the basement. It's called disaster capitalism. You know, going on in like a vulture and taking advantage of other people's tragedy. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials here. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I'm watching the Fox News feed here. And finally, Congress is doing something really useful. Apparently, responding to a report from the Inspector General, they're now taking a look at military pricing. And apparently the IG examined 47 different military contracts and found excessive charges on 46 of them. So now Congress is looking at this idea of military markups, and we've all heard the stories about, the $50 hammer and the $700 toilet seat. And it really does exist that way. And I got to see it at a couple points during my life. First of all, with NASA, and then later on when I briefly went back into aerospace work. And it is. It's a racket. Just like Smedley Butler said, war is a racket. And it would be nice if Congress would have the spine to do something about it. Because you heard Trump when he was talking about Iraq. We put in $1.5 trillion into our military, and that makes us strong. Not really. Not if the money's being wasted. Not if it's buying junk like the F-35. And when you look at other countries' military procurement programs like Russia and China, they're focused on getting good weapons, as opposed to here in the United States, where it's really all about the money. And again, somebody called on in, I think they said Pentagon Wars is on Hulu now. Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime. And if you haven't seen it, you really need to look at it. It's a funny movie. They're treating it very lightly, but it is a serious problem. And this is based on the true story of the development of the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. And at the very beginning of the movie, where they're showing the start of the congressional hearings, Kelsey Grammer is out there saying, we're strong. We beat the Soviet Union because we could shovel the money into the fire faster than they could, which you laugh at it, but that's kind of the attitude that you're going to get. And so, yeah, military spending is completely out of control. And we don't need to have these very expensive systems that don't work. All right, we're going to take a phone call here. Al in West Virginia, aloha. Welcome to the show. I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, you mentioned that price gouging. I just wanted to say in the auto industry, it's the same way. If you go into the parts store to buy a starter for a Cadillac, and it'll take the same exact starter as a Chevrolet motor, but because it says Cadillac, you'll pay 1.5 times as much or 2 times as much.
Yes.
The same thing also with RV. Anything that says recreational vehicle, RVs, the same parts, but if it says RV on it and you tell them it's for an RV, it's 2 or 3 times higher.
Well, that's the prestige value there. I would imagine, though, that a starter for like a recreational vehicle would have to be a little bit more heavy duty than one for a Ford. And so I don't know how common.
On the starter part, I was comparing a Cadillac. I've been doing mechanic work. I've had shops for 40 years.
Okay.
And if you go in there to buy a starter, and it takes the same starter as a Chevy starter, there's no difference in it. Same winding, same everything, same bolt pattern, same everything. But because, and I would tell them, I'd say, look up one for a Cadillac with the same engine, and they'll pull it out. We talk about it at the parts store all the time. They'll put a different number on the box because it's Cadillac, but then they charge 1.5 times as much, up to 2 times as much sometimes.
God, everything is a racket in this country. It really is. But in the case of, the car, you chose to have the Ford or the Cadillac or the recreational vehicle. In the case of military spending, the American taxpayer doesn't get a choice. They're being told they have to buy the $50 hammer or the $700 toilet seat. And as I said, I
understand. I remember when that happened. Yeah, I remember that. That's just outrageous. That should have been put. There should have been a stop to put to that real quick and hurry. I used to buy a lot of medical equipment from the VA hospital when they'd buy new equipment. I'd go in and bid on it, and I would buy stuff for 15, 20, 25 cents up to $5 and come out with x-ray machines and just truckloads of gurneys and things you wouldn't believe. Well, everything that they use in the hospital. and including the groundskeeper tools, and because they had to get rid of that so they could make room for the new stuff. So it's great stuff that they could have sold. Actually, like I'd send X-ray machines, like say a dental X-ray machine or a portable X-ray machine. I would send stuff like that down to Mexico, and only get $300 or $500, but I'd send 6 or 7 at a time, and I only had $15, $20 in them or $10 in them.
Well, that's quite an interesting little story. And again, I remember military surplus was a real deal. Anyway, stay on the line, Al. I'm going to come right back to you.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. Here we're talking with Al in West Virginia. We're talking about surplus. And when I still lived in Southern California, there was this store in Pasadena right on Colorado Boulevard. And it was called C&H Surplus. And all the local high-tech military companies would dump their surplus there. And you could just find these amazing bargains, stuff that was still in the box, brand new from the manufacturer. And I used to go down there all the time for parts for my telescope, and a lot of the engineers from JPL went down there to find bits and pieces to work on prototypes for whatever it is they were working on. And it was just, it was sort of Disneyland for us techno nerds.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to a lot of them either because, excuse me, I noticed that I've been in a few of them since then, of them type of, this is a little different what I was talking about, the VA hospitals, but the surplus stores, I used to go to a lot of them too. And I notice nowadays that a lot of that stuff isn't even true military. It's a lot of cheap stuff.
Yeah, it's a clothing. They're clothing stores. We have a couple of them here on Oahu, and there's nothing really decent there.
And then they also, I don't know if they put a stop to them being able to get a hold of actual military stuff, because most of the stuff that I've seen in there wasn't, and their prices was just, they went so high. You know, it used to be you could get such good deals in there, but now I noticed that there was kind of, you wasn't going to get too much of a deal in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember one time I got an old tank periscope that had a 6-power monoscope built into it. And I took that apart and I turned it into a finder scope for my telescope. And it was the best finder scope I ever had. It was this amazing Erfel eyepiece. It was just clear as a bell.
Yeah. Huh. That's all I had, Michael. I just thought to throw that out there, that it's everywhere in this you know, in retail and wholesale, and it's just you know, it's just out of hand. Everything's out of hand.
I would agree with you on that last one, but again, I've been exposed to the waste in military spending on a couple of occasions, and I found it absolutely shocking. And you know, every year you see the Pentagon comes back and say, "We need more money. We need more money. We need more money," and they're just wasting so much of it. And do you remember back on September 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld got up there at the Pentagon and admitted they had managed to mislay about $3 trillion with AT. And it should have been the scandal of the year, financially and militarily, but of course the next day 9/11 happened, and lucky Don Rumsfeld, he was out of the hot seat.
Right. And I, you know, I asked them at these hospitals. I said, why they, you know, the people that I dealt with, you know, that was in charge of, that I had to deal with to pay them and to go receive everything that I'd won, and it was they just flat told you, said, well, if we don't spend our allowance, if we don't spend our money, then they'll cut our allowance, so we have to spend it. So you know, whether it's good or not, we're going to get rid of it and keep buying more.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Again, back at JPL in the days when computer time was actually monitored and it came out of your budget, so many cents per CPU cycle. And toward the end of the fiscal year, we were told, write some software, doesn't matter what it does, use up the computer time or they'll cut our allotment for next year. And yeah, it is.
Amazing.
And, yeah.
All right. I'll let you go. Thanks, Fox.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. But again, getting on back to the military, it's a racket, as Smedley Butler said. And the military are buying things that you could get at an ordinary hardware store for just a few bucks. And by the time it goes through the whole military procurement machinery, it's hideously expensive. And everybody's making money all the way along. And maybe Congress is looking at this issue right now because the word is coming on down, we can't afford another war. And so Congress is going to say, well, we're going to start cutting the budgets and the waste out of the military procurement so that we can afford a new war. And I'd like to see them do it, but it's an ongoing problem. I mean, Harry Truman, before he became president, when he was just a senator, he was dealing with this. And it was one of the things that made him very popular with the American people, was getting those government contractors to toe the line in terms of, look, we gave you this much money to produce XYZ. Where's XYZ? So Truman had to deal with it. And it is insane. And even worse, of course, today, what is coming out of the military-industrial complex, by and large, seems to be junk. We're not really ready to go up against Russia and China in a war, unless we're just going to go nuclear right from the start. Okay, down in New Zealand, as you know, they're starting to ban guns, and guns that were once legal to own are now declared illegal, and the owners are being ordered to hand them in, for which they will receive financial compensation. Well, it turns out that the Council of Licensed Firearms Owners is taking legal action because the gun buyback scheme by the government is literally pennies on the dollar. And the gun owners are saying, we're talking about some very expensive weapons here, and they just want to give us a few bucks. So there may be a court action over that. Okay, out in California, a federal judge has sided with the First Amendment in a lawsuit against the California Fair Board that banned gun show and other event organizers from its facilities, which are otherwise available to the general public. So U.S. District Judge Kathy Bencivengo issued a temporary order to stop the Del Mar Fair Board from enforcing a recently enacted moratorium on gun shows at the fairgrounds. Now, disputes over gun rights typically center on the Second Amendment, which grants Americans the right to keep and bear arms. This case, however, focused on the First Amendment. And Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation that filed the lawsuit, said, you know, he's happy. And he said, at a time and in a state where law-abiding gun owners seem under constant attack, having a federal judge side with our complaint validates our efforts to protect constitutional and civil rights. And as I mentioned the other day, one of the things I'm looking forward to after we get to Indiana is their gun laws are nowhere near as strict as they are here in Hawaii. All right, we're going to take another phone call. This one from Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. You know, all this talk about war, and you know, I've heard thrown about, you know, talk about warring with China, Iran, Korea, Russia, the same that we talk about here on RBN. But what a lot of people don't seem to understand, and I keep trying to get people around town to understand, if we got into a war just with China alone, we would have our asses handed to us on a silver platter. China would stomp us up one side and down the other, and there wouldn't be jack squat that any of us could do about it. And anybody who knows anything and can look at things realistically can see this as an absolute fact that can't be denied. Now, if they want to pick a fight with Iran, man, I was in town the other day, and I heard people talking about, we ought to go over there and just turn that into a big old glass parking lot. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, and do you know what would happen? We would have to deal with Russia, China, and Korea. Now, is that a fight you want to pick? And they just kind of stood there and looked at me like I was an idiot.
You know, I think too many people in this country are in love with war because they've never had to deal with it, or they've never had a family member that had to deal with it. And they think war is what they see in TV shows and movies, you know, where it's glory and, you know, we're on to victory. And it isn't really like that, not at all. The other day, in fact, Platoon was on TV, which was Oliver Stone's first film. And it was based on his experience in Vietnam. And that is a very realistic telling about, you know, what it's like over there. But it's very easy for people to sit there and say, yeah, we got to go to war over here. And my usual response to that is, well, why don't you enlist? If you think we really need to go to war against Iran, here's your rifle, here's your parachute, here's your day-glow orange jumpsuit left over from the CIA torture centers. Watch your head climbing into that transport plane, and we'll call Khamenei and tell him you are on your way to kick his butt. And the rest of us, though, we're going to sit out.
Yep, exactly. And I think a lot of this, too, because I'm talking to, this is coming from younger people. This is coming from people that are like in their 20s and 30s and all this. And, I'm asking them, I'm like, because they talk about, we went over here and did this, and we went over here and did that, we went over here and did the other thing. And I'm like, okay, Noriega, Panama, seriously? We could have done that with our eyes closed. That was nothing. What happened in Afghanistan and Iraq, seriously? We could have done that with our eyes closed. All of these wars that you're talking about, which really weren't actually wars, were conflicts that were instigated against the people that were terribly ill-equipped to take on someone like the United States. And as far as Vietnam goes, folks, we never won that one. The only reason why we walked away saving any face was because those in charge felt it was a better decision to call a tie, call a truce, call a ceasefire, instead of staying engaged in Vietnam after, 10 years and not getting anywhere. It was better to just save face and call it a draw and walk away, and that way you can say you didn't lose. Because I guarantee you, if we'd have stayed in Vietnam, we would have lost that, and the death toll would have been probably 2 or 3 times what it was. People just do not understand. They think about what the United States has done in all these other little pissant countries with no real military to speak of, and all of a sudden they got this crazy concept that we can take on anybody, and they don't realize with China, we're pretty much matched as far as firepower, but manpower, we are terribly outnumbered with China. And with Russia, I think we're pretty much outmanned with Russia as well. There's no way we could win this. This crazy belief that we can take on anyone and win? Who the hell do these people think we are? Anyway, thanks, Mike. Have a great one.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And again, young people, they see movies, TV shows about how great war is, and they think that's what it's really all about. And they don't really think about it because they haven't been in a war. They haven't even been through basic training. And they don't know what it's like to kill a fellow human being until they actually pull that trigger. And that's generally when people start to change their attitude about war. And I guess for certain individuals, that's perfectly okay. The other thing you need to keep in mind, though, is the awareness that there is still in this country a massive network of undercover FBI informants who are probably all being told that they should talk up the war at every opportunity. So that's something else that you need to talk about. Okay, let's take a phone call from Steve in Mexico. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, Mike. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the food shortages that we're going to end up, coming into this coming, I guess, winter. And I've listened to Vince Vanelli and how much problems there are with farmers and stuff like that, and how much or how many of them are, been put out, business basically.
Yes.
And I think with that extra cost, because I just went to the grocery store today and I just wanted to get a smaller package of what do you call it, stew meat.
Yes.
And I seen last month it was $5. Now it's $8.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing at our local market. The prices are just going right through the roof.
So I think here later on, they're talking about buying cars, homes, and all that. Well, I think the people are going to end up spending more on food, and it's going to cut into the other areas because, you're going to need to feed your family and everything. So I don't think we're going to see too many automobiles being sold, homes and stuff like that. So,
well, here's the real problem. Okay, it doesn't matter how much money you have if the shelves at the supermarket are empty. And that is a very real possibility. I'm getting all these reports from all across the Midwest about flooded fields and crops aren't growing anywhere near the way that they should. And yeah, we could literally, this country could run out of food, which is another reason why we shouldn't be letting the illegals in here.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. These illegals, it's going to put that much more pressure, on the food supply.
Maybe we could eat
and
the
one
illegals.
other thing too. Yeah, barbecue them.
Yep.
But and then how they make, take the corn and make it into what is it?
Ethanol.
Well, I think they're going to have to skip doing that this year. So I seen a picture where this time of the year, the corn last year at this time was like 3.5 foot high to 4. Now it's only about maybe 8 inches of what they can plant. So you can tell where things are going.
Yeah.
And of course we have that, what do you call it? Grand minimal, the sun and everything. That's going to have a lot
the grand
of
solar
play a
minimum,
lot.
yes.
Yeah, because I forgot who the scientist was, but he said we could also expect the sun to throw off a solar flare, because I know in, what was it, December of 2012, we were just barely missed by one. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah,
and I know
Mother Nature
Vince,
has not been kind to the United States or the entire
well,
world, actually.
They haven't.
Okay, well, listen,
The
Steve, I
planet
got to let you
hasn't.
go. We're going
Well,
to take
anyway.
our final commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be back with the last segment of our
You're-
program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. We're going to take one more phone call from Joseph in Hawaii. Aloha, Joseph. What's on your mind?
Hey, aloha, Mike. I don't get the chance to listen as often as I'd like to your program. You may have already covered this, but I was just curious if you could maybe elaborate on your thoughts as to why or what was pushing you to move, from Hawaii. Was it more of a push factor or a pull factor to Indiana? My wife and I think about it a lot since we live here too, about maybe it's not quite, like you live in Aloha.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Hawaii. Okay. And
we do too. Yeah,
I'm going to miss this place. No question about it. In between getting ready to move, we're trying to make one more visit to certain places around here that we have fond memories of. It's kind of a little bit of both. The push side is economic. We just can't afford to live here anymore. And we're looking at the rents in Indiana, and we need to get from a 2-story to a 1-story because of Claire's issues with stairs. And so that's the push factor. The pull factor is Claire has family there in Indiana, and they're being very generous with their help to get us pulled over to the mainland. And so that's definitely the pull. But, it's very difficult. We've spent a long time building up a home here, building up the studio, and it kind of bothers me. I'm having to just tear it all apart, throw it in a container, and have to start all over at the other end because of the shortness of money, we're having to leave pretty much everything behind except the computers, the music equipment, and some of the memorabilia which could not be replaced. And everything else we're trying to sell off or give away.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one. As you know, there's Honolulu's been losing population as of late, I guess, in recent years, and the economic factors do make it so oppressive here. It's hard because you learn to live a different lifestyle when you live out here versus the mainland to adjust to that, and which works well, but. The fact of the matter is that, like you said, it's the economic aspects. They say, as you probably know, what is it? You have to have an income of, 60 or 70,000 a year is just the borderline poverty out here or something to that effect. It was in the news.
I don't know exactly what the number is. I know that we're certainly not making that. But, we just, like I said earlier in the show, our local supermarket, the prices are going up. We just got a major increase in our rent a few months ago, and that was kind of the breaking point. And of course, Claire does want to be close to her family, and there are 2 medical professionals in that group of family. And that's very kind of comforting for me because when Claire broke her back last year, it was 3 months before we could get her into a doctor to find out what had gone wrong. And that's just unacceptable.
Yes, it sure is. Hey, before you go, I know you're closing up here soon, but maybe you've mentioned this. Are you going to be continuing the show there in Indiana?
Oh, yes.
Or will there be a break period?
Well,
Okay, so
I'm probably going to be off the air for a few days, but no, the show will continue after we're settled in. Anyway, Joseph, I got to let you go. Aloha. And we're at the end of our show. John is having Harley Schlanger and NSA whistleblower Bill Benny on the air. So you want to stay tuned for that. And again, take what you learn here, share it with everybody that you know. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.